When you think about the Airbus A380, the first thing that probably comes to mind is its size. It's the largest passenger aircraft ever built, with 2 full decks, massive wings, and the ability to carry hundreds of passengers across continents. But beyond its size, there's another question that always comes up. How long can it actually stay in the air without refueling? So in this video we take a look at how many hours the Airbus A380 can fly non-stop, what really determines that endurance, and why this aircraft still stands out in long-haul aviation even today. Let's start with the short answer. In real airline operations, the Airbus A380 can typically fly between about 14.5 and 16 hours without refueling under normal long-haul conditions. That figure lines up closely with its published maximum range of around 8,200 nautical miles, or roughly 15,200 kilometers. In some cases, that range can stretch even further. With maximum fuel loads such as during ferry flights, the A380 can exceed 8,800 nautical miles. But in everyday airline service, flights are rarely planned right at the edge of that limit. At a standard cruise speed of around Mach 0.85, the A380 travels at roughly 480 to 510 knots true airspeed, depending on altitude and atmospheric conditions. The combination of speed and range is what allows the aircraft to routinely operate flights well over half a day in duration. And importantly, these numbers are not just theoretical. Airlines like Emirates regularly operate A380 flights lasting between 13 and 15.5 hours, proving that this endurance is something the aircraft achieves consistently in real-world operations. To really understand how the A380 can fly for that long, it helps to look at why Airbus designed it the way they did. Back in the 1990s, Airbus developed the A380 in response to growing congestion at major global airports. The idea was simple. Instead of increasing the number of flights, airlines could move more passengers per flight using fewer airport slots. This was the peak of the hub-and-spoke model, where large aircraft connected major cities around the world. To make that vision work, Airbus needed an aircraft with both enormous capacity and long-range capability. That meant designing a wing optimized for efficient cruise over long distances and integrating one of the most complex fuel systems ever used in a commercial airliner. The result was an aircraft that could carry more than 500 passengers across intercontinental distances, while still maintaining the endurance needed for ultra-long-haul routes. Now, while 14 to 16 hours is a typical range for A380 flights, the actual endurance of any given flight is not fixed. It depends on several key factors. The first and most obvious is fuel capacity. The Airbus A380 can carry approximately 85,500 gallons, or about 320,000 litres of fuel. That makes it one of the largest fuel loads ever carried by a commercial aircraft. This fuel is stored across multiple tanks in the wings and additional trim tanks, all carefully designed to maintain balance and aerodynamic efficiency throughout the flight. But fuel alone doesn't determine how long the aircraft can stay airborne. A fully loaded A380 carrying more than 500 passengers along with their baggage and cargo will consume more fuel than a lightly loaded aircraft. Airlines constantly balance passenger numbers, cargo weight, and fuel planning to optimize performance. For example, airlines like Emirates often operate high-density configurations. This slightly reduces the aircraft's maximum range, but still allows for flights exceeding 14 hours while maintaining required fuel reserves. The A380 typically cruises at Mach 0.85, which is a balance between efficiency and travel time. Flying faster increases fuel burn, while flying slower improves endurance but may not be practical for scheduling. Altitude also plays a key role. Long-haul flights often involve what are known as step climbs. As the aircraft burns fuel and becomes lighter, it climbs to higher altitudes where the air is thinner and more efficient for cruising. Now, while technical specifications are useful, the best way to understand the A380's endurance is to look at how airlines actually use it. As the world's largest A380 operator, Emirates has built much of its long-haul network around the aircraft. Routes like Dubai to Los Angeles, Dubai to San Francisco, and Dubai to Sydney regularly push flight times into the 13 to 15.5-hour range. These flights sit comfortably within the A380's performance envelope while still leaving room for regulatory fuel reserves. Airlines never plan flights right at the edge of the aircraft's limits. Instead, they build in margins for weather, rerouting, and delays. Singapore Airlines, the A380's launch customer, initially used the aircraft on long-haul routes like Singapore to London. These flights regularly lasted well into double-digit hours, helping validate Airbus's performance claims early in the program. From a regulatory standpoint, the aircraft is designed to carry additional fuel for contingencies, alternate airports, and holding patterns if necessary. So, even on flights approaching 15 hours, the aircraft never arrives with empty tanks. The A380's endurance is not about pushing limits, it's about reliability, predictability, and the ability to operate long-haul routes consistently and safely. In terms of endurance, it remains competitive, but it is no longer the longest-range aircraft in the sky. The closest comparison is the Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental. Both aircraft offer similar range capabilities, with the A380 having a slight edge at around 8,200 nautical miles compared to the 747-8's approximately 8,000 nautical miles. In terms of flight time, both aircraft typically operate in the 14 to 16-hour range. However, the A380 stands out when it comes to passenger capacity, carrying over 500 passengers compared to around 470 on the 747. Aircraft like the Airbus A350-9000 ULR can fly longer in terms of hours, often exceeding 18 hours. Similarly, the Boeing 777-200LR and Boeing 787-9 can achieve comparable or even greater endurance, but these aircraft carry significantly fewer passengers. That's the key difference. Of course, the A380 has limitations. Weather is one of the biggest factors. Strong headwinds, especially on westbound flights, can significantly increase flight time while reducing the effective range. Airlines must account for this when planning routes near the aircraft's limits. Just because the A380 can fly for 16 hours doesn't mean it always makes sense to do so. Ultra-long-haul flights are expensive, require multiple crew rotations, and depend heavily on passenger demand. Ultimately, the A380 represents a very specific era in aviation, an era focused on scale, hub-to-hub travel, and maximizing both capacity and range. While the industry is now moving toward efficiency and flexibility with smaller aircraft, the A380 still stands as a benchmark for long-haul performance. Even today, its ability to stay airborne for around 15 hours while transporting an entire wide-body's worth of passengers across continents remains one of the most remarkable achievements in commercial aviation. What do you think? Would you choose to fly on the A380 for a 15-hour journey, or would you prefer a newer, smaller, long-range aircraft? Let us know by leaving a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more aviation content. See you next time. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.